Stop listening to new shit and get your other work done. You don't need to have this constant inflow of distraction, which is what it currently turns into.
The big lesson, you got to have outputs to match the inputs. Be somewhat self-aware and know that if you're being well-read, being educated, taking in content, it's fantastic.
When you say input, if people even did half as much output as they're inputting, it would be way better off for them.
Stop listening to new shit and get your other work done, right? You don't need to have this constant inflow of distraction, which is what it currently turns into. That's why I hit pause. I haven't read a book in, I don't think, 4 to 6 months easily. And it's been the most productive, thought-provoking time I had, because I put my head down and get to work and focus on building things out in my company. Like, I knew enough. Like, I didn't need anything new. I just had to execute on what I already knew. And it's been night and day different, but it's also been better for the team, better for the business, better for my own headspace, rather than me going entrepreneur ADD, getting all these brand new ideas, thinking through all this stuff that I'm not going to implement. And it was preventing me from implementing things that actually mattered. And business is good, team's good, structure is good, and you actually have clarity on the future. And could I have found a book or something that would have helped me with that? Maybe, but I doubt it. Like, just because I'm an avid reader beforehand, so there are a lot under my belt, so to speak. But I think that happens a lot with gym owners, business owners, is they're listening to a podcast, 2 or 3 episodes, maybe sometimes 2 episodes a day in the car, right? And they're just constantly intaking all these new inputs, right? Then they go on Instagram and they follow all these accounts and they get this advice. And then they're on Twitter scrolling at this advice, and they just don't have time to execute on what they know they should be doing. And it's a distraction.
Yeah,
Sometimes the work just needs doing.
Yeah, it's probably not a great time
promotion
for our podcast. But I definitely, in the terms of when you say input, I definitely think if people even did half as much output as they're inputting, it would be way better off for them. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. When people use it as a distraction from the real work, that they think that they're growing and developing because they've listened to 9,000 podcasts and read 4,000 books, or like people, I read a book a week or 2 books a month and whatever, and it's really just distracting them from doing the actual sitting down, pen to paper on your laptop, of actually doing and creating.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying I'll definitely go back, but I could feel the pull in a million different directions. Like, I had to get some stuff done, right? A lot of employees, 4 locations now, a lot of opportunity too, to explore, a lot of ideas. We should do this. Well, what's preventing us from should, right? Now it's like, well, we're going to do this and this is going to get done, and it's checked off, and let's get this implemented. We know what we need to do. Now it's time to just go and do the work. So here's my advice to you, or maybe a setup structure for you. Somebody who's listening to this and like, I'm never giving this up, I need to constantly grow. That's not what we're saying. We're saying is, yes, you need to do that, but there's also time to do the work. And if it's getting in the way of your work, then you need a better structure. So how about this? Set your weekly to-do list on a Sunday night. 3 things, 2 things, 5 things. I don't care what it is. Get it done. If you get it done by Friday, you can listen to a podcast or read a book on Friday. That's it. Like, done. But if you don't get it done,
it's like your ice cream, your pizza Fridays. If you if you dial in nutrition all week, you get to have 2 slices of pizza.
Get it done and
with
watch
your podcast.
It's just a different perspective of it. Like, it's a different filter. Like, oh, well, what do I listen to in the car? I don't know. Why don't you shut some stuff off and think and get clear, or do anything else that's productive? Maybe just recharge a little bit. Why do we constantly need to be stimulated with that? I joked about that too. Like, one of our last meetings, guys, like, what do you guys do for fun? And I was like, I drive in silence.
Dude, it's like, I just got a new truck, but for the last 2 years, my radio did not work. I drove in silence.
Well, here's the thing too. It's the same thing, whether it's input or not. But like, oh, I gotta make a call, or I gotta be on the phone constantly. I gotta touch base with so and so. It's like, why don't you slow down and manage your time a little better? I'm not saying don't make calls. It's a great time to make calls and check in and do some stuff like that. But for me personally, it was getting out of hand, and it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
It's okay. You don't have to constantly like how many times throughout the day can I just take 10 minutes and be still, be calm, be silent, and go from there. And if you're catching yourself where it's like, man, I never do that, well, cut out some inputs, right? And see what happens and watch what your productivity does, or even just your peace of mind. Because here's the thing too, then people talk about being I'm not going to go into the balance, right? But people definitely have different buckets that they need to pour energy into. Most gym owners that we know, guys are around our age, they have families with young kids. Like, do you want to have energy for your kids? Of course you do. But if you're burned out, even not necessarily physically, we've been there too. But even if you're burned out mentally or overstimulated mentally, you can't go and be present fully when you're with your kids. You're just going through the motions. And if people say, well, I really care about that, well, then listen to what I'm telling you and cut out some of the inputs and watch what happens.
Well, it's you mentioned inputs and outputs, right? It's like the idea of like you're not going to bench press 450 pounds like Connor does watching training videos on YouTube. You got to have some output.
Go hit
I love
someone
how
up.
this like legend is starting of like, oh, Connor bench presses 450. You're gonna end up at a workout at a gym at a mastermind event
Wait,
and people are
wait.
doing
Does Connor
best.
bench
You better
450?
be fucking ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Connor, what's your best
Absolutely.
all time? What's your best? What do you bench? What's the best time? What's your best bench?
Low 400s.
Okay. Oh,
That's still impressive.
you can find a double.
Hashtag natty for life.
Hey, GR, do some math. You can find a bench press video of Mark Ennis on YouTube
You ever see a pregnant?
at two times
You ever
body
see a
weight
pregnant goose?
at 225.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fun stuff. I like this as a little shorty.
You know what's funny, Gr, is we were saying we weren't going to do another one because
And I think we just did.
Mark was going to talk for 11 minutes, and he still did. But
He
we
still
hit record, and he still did.
8 minutes.
We did. I think look, I think the big lesson, you got to have outputs to match the inputs, right? You got to be able to be somewhat self-aware and know that if you're in, like, I think being well-read, I think being educated, I think taking in content is fucking fantastic. I also think that it needs to be strategic.
Balance.
And there's a season to be taking in a bunch of inputs, and there's a season for like you always need to be hitting your outputs. But it's also like, do I need to be studying how to take a company public right now? That doesn't help me. It doesn't help anyone in our universe, in my circle. Like it's just like that is literally entrepreneurial masturbation entertainment, which is cool if I'm getting all of my outputs, if I'm getting everything that needs to get done, fucking done. And if it's not, then maybe you need to stop reading 18 bajillion business books and masking your activity and education as accomplishment because it's not, oh, look at that. Look. It's got confetti. Wow, this is going to be an incredible video. So
I think you just have to be honest with yourself. Are you doing it because it's actually helping you, or are you doing it because you're entertained by it?
Yeah, or you're procrastinating.
And if it's the second, then you got to freaking shut up and
To speak
buckle
to
in and do the work.
GR, I'm glad you said that. I was going to say the exact same thing. It's like it's seasonal. What season are you in? And you need to ask yourself that. Like and I've been in the same boat where it's like, oh, we expanded. All right, time to like make this thing go. Then it settles in a little bit. You run the plays, good to go. Then it's like you kind of have a little bit of breathing room. Now it's time to reload. What have I learned? Where are my weak spots? I'm going to pour into resources. I'm going to go find specific things that are going to help strengthen me as whatever my weak spot is, right? Or my business's weak spot. And then pour into it, and then you get inspiration, you get sparks of creativity for the next move, and then you kind of stockpile for that next move, then go do the work, and you kind of repeat again. That's how I think that's really important. I'm glad you said that because it's totally seasonal. I already know to not say I'm never gonna do this again. I already know I pegged like almost on my calendar. I know what's gonna happen in our business, right? Barring anything crazy, but like I know when I'm gonna start to pick up some stuff again. Right. But I told myself like, nope, going full bore until this X date, until this project's done, whatever that is. But so there's definitely it's definitely seasonal. And I think being aware of where you're at is super, super beneficial.
be aware of where you're at, get shit done, go do the work. Love you, rooting for you. Have a great one.